Psychopaths, narcissists, borderlines, and histrionics all play this game. The appearance of being a victim, the appearance of being frail and fragile. How would you recognize this? Okay, here's a way of recognizing it. Remember at all times that what you are dealing with is a performance to elicit a response from you. Take one person, take what I just said, put them together. Think of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 examples where they behaved in a certain way that elicited a response from you that caused you to serve them.
Welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in to this short story. At the time, I couldn't understand why this series of events was happening to me. But now that I look back, I'm eternally grateful for the experience, and I'm hopeful that you uncover a lesson for yourself. Everyone has a purpose, and most importantly, every situation has a lesson to be learned. After all, it's the little things you shouldn't ignore. I distinctly remember feeling emotionally uncomfortable around him for quite some time. I had observed that he was completely nice to strangers. Regarding me, he was majorly mean, dismissive, and condescending. This newly predator role he played was a 100% turnaround from what he was. Just a few months earlier, he was a perpetual victim of shitty circumstances and horrible people that would always find him, no matter where he hid. On this particular day, I was so ecstatic that he let me know he made something for me. Even though I was walking on eggshells, being as cooperative as I could by providing mucho praise for his good deed, it didn't matter. He was as mean as a rattlesnake. I was even greeted at the door by his contemptuous attitude. It's obvious my self-worth was in the toilet because knowing what I know now, I would have left him quick and fast, right where he stood. I don't recall exactly how the conversation turned to the Apostle Paul, but I'm glad it did. By this time in my life, I was embracing my spiritual journey and studying affirmations and scriptures. So by this point, I knew of Paul as one of my favorite inspirational writers. I would rank Paul of Tarsus of the first century world right up there with some of my modern day favorites like Toni Morrison and Stephen King, who I'd often try to imitate in my own writings. Paul was one of the earliest and most staunch supporters of Christ in his day, I remember explaining, trying to set the stage for an intellectual conversation. He was one of the greatest writers of his time period, I continued. He was real, his language was firm but gentle. He's probably known by most for his verse in Ephesians 6:10-18, where he warns us to suit up for war with God's armor. As I was explaining to him that much of Paul's writings had essentially made the New Testament as powerful as it was, I was met with his side eyes, criticisms, and the occasional utterances beneath his breath. "You don't know what you're talking about," I can hear him saying. See, that's the problem. You all worship these men. Why would you believe something written by people who you don't know anything about? Do you believe everything you read? Those people have nothing to tell me, he went on and on. I knew right then if I continued any further significant relations with this person, my calling, my duty to my Creator, and to others like my young son would be in jeopardy because he was draining the living life from me. There was no convincing him of what I knew to be the truth about God's Word. His heart was closed, or at least to my help and support. This was a spiritual battle, a tug-of-war game for my soul. I could either please this guy by conforming to his beliefs about the irrelevancy of God's written word to make him happy, or I could stand up for what was right. I chose the latter. The Creator provides us with signs when something is not right for us. I felt these vibes when I first met him, but I ignored my instincts, the warning the Lord placed in my heart. Allow me to tell you today, it's never too late. For example, was this my last time associating with this person? Of course not. I continued for a while longer. But God is a merciful God, and the Apostle Paul was a wise man beyond his time as he stated in 1 Corinthians 10:13. God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. If you've made a mistake, right the wrong, especially if you can, but most importantly, pay attention to the negative vibes. Your instincts, God's still small voice, is there for a reason. Whenever we disobey the Creator, trust and believe, consequences are soon to follow. During this time, everything for me wasn't all peaches and cream. It took me quite a while to get over this entire ordeal. Because of the mind games, the emotional and verbal abuse, my ego and self-worth were in shambles. And most importantly, my life's calling was slipping away. Now that I look back, this was the ultimate goal of the enemy. I've come to learn that toxic people come in all shapes, kinds, and mental aptitudes. They are placed in your life by God to finally teach you the most important lesson of all. Value yourself. In conclusion, and once again, the Apostle Paul comes with another very inspiring message. In his letter to the church of Galatia, Galatians 6:14, Paul shows great foresight and closeness with the Lord as he reminds us to continue to live in a way that reflects the goodness of our God. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and be sure to get your very own copy of TheVibe is Good Publishing's many books, including Traversing the Word with Me, now available at Amazon.